Hello, I'm Jonathan Charnes. I made a previous video on improving your hand router by making a bigger crank. And this diagram was incorrect. It doesn't show the correct shape of the crank. This is the correct shape of the crank. Let's put it like this. You can see it's kind of like a stretched out S. It's not a U. But everything else is more or less the same. The store-bought handles, as I mentioned, or the handles that the routers come with, do not have much of a bend in them. They're very difficult to turn. You'll tire very quickly. The one I made has a bigger bend. And of course we have some stops here. In between these two stops there's a tube which will roll, so your hand won't rub against this when you're cranking. Same over here, except this end we have a grounding clamp. And the grounding clamp has a hole drilled through it that's tapped, so an eye bolt can go through and apply pressure on the rotting cable to stop the cable, so that way it'll rotate as you rotate the crank. When this is loose, the crank will rotate, and obviously the rotting cable won't. Of course, you also have to drill a hole in your tube here so the screw can go through. These little bearings or stops I generally make by cutting one of these EMT couplings in half. Now you got to be careful because there's a ridge in the middle, and so for these I have to cut it before the ridge. Then I can slide it all the way. Otherwise, if you have the ridge and you cut it in half, then that makes a good end bearing. So those are just a couple little pointers I gave. On the one I did on the part 1, I actually used a different type of coupling that you don't have to cut, that slides all the way on the tube. But you can, again, just get a little larger tube. As long as the diameter is greater than the diameter of the conduit you bend, it'll work. Again, don't over torque this. I mean, you have a much greater mechanical advantage, and so you won't tire. Don't go wild on it, otherwise you might kink or buckle your rotting cable. It's probably the reason why the ones you get at the store have hardly any bend. You can't get much leverage, but you tire very quickly with that. So I find they're worthless. Again, I've been using these for years, the ones I've made, and makes life a lot easier. Thank you.